He's got an ethics complaint about sleeping with a 17-year-old. So that's the way they would go.
Hey, if you took that stage, you would get booed off of it. You would get booed off the stage.
Dude, I don't even know who you are. It doesn't fucking matter who I am. It's probably an asshole. Yeah.
The Republican National Convention continues to deliver moments of drama and dysfunction, including this moment in which Matt Gaetz heckled his arch nemesis and former Republican Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, only to be confronted nose to nose by a McCarthy supporter, forcing Gaetz to slink away in shame, all on camera. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. As you know, one of the recurring theses of this channel is that the Republican Party is an authoritarian cult of personality with no limiting principle and no talent for or interest in responsible governance. But I would be lying to you if I said that much of the political momentum isn't in the GOP's favor. Right now, they're favored in the polls. They're experiencing a fundraising boost. Donald Trump has been the recipient of enormous legal victories because of a right-wing Supreme Court and a right-wing judge down in Florida. And yet, if you get these Republicans, these MAGA Republicans in a room, it seems like the dysfunction pretty quickly manifests. So I'm going to play you. This is basically the same clip, but it's from 3 different angles, and they are all quite illustrative. In this angle here, former Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who is still a very influential Republican because he's one of their best fundraisers, showed up at the RNC and was interviewed by a CNN reporter. And this is just a 15-second clip from the McCarthy vantage point.
Back, and then the other part that you have, and the other part you have is one person who raised the issue. He's got an ethics complaint about sleeping with a 17-year-old. So that's the way they would go. So that's the biggest challenge we have.
So that is, again, McCarthy being interviewed by Caitlin Collins talking about Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz is under ethics review. Again, we'll get into all of that. And then you see Matt Gaetz actually enter the frame to try to heckle McCarthy and getting pretty close, right? So I want to play that same clip, basically that same exchange from a different vantage point. Here's from the other side in which you can see Matt Gaetz.
What night are you speaking? Are you speaking tonight? Or one person? No. Hey, if you took that stage, you would get booed off of it. You would get booed off the stage.
So again, I'm so petulant. This guy's like a child. The jokes almost make themselves. I'm not going to do it. He is quite like a child, right? So here he is showing up, trying to crowd the space, getting McCarthy's face. And if you saw that last part of the clip right there, he's an older, not an old, but older than Gaetz, supporter of McCarthy's, and a Republican there gets his attention and they start mouthing at each other. So that's the second angle. Here's the third angle. Also on Gaetz, but then you see more of the nose-to-nose confrontation with the McCarthy supporter afterwards.
You would get booed off the stage.
Shut up, Gaetz. Don't be an asshole.
Dude, I don't even know who you are.
It doesn't fucking matter who I am. It's probably an asshole.
Yeah, I'm just standing here.
So, obviously some flowery language there, some profane language, right? You have this person, this Republican, this potential McCarthy staffer. I don't know who he is, but he's there watching McCarthy give this interview, and he actually calls Gaetz out, refers to him as an effing a-hole, okay, to try to be PG here. And yeah, Gaetz, they go nose to nose for a second. Gaetz is like, I don't know who you are, trying to flex on him. But then Gaetz walks away pretty quickly. Interesting stuff. Now, you might be thinking, what's up with that? As a reminder, Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy served side by side in the Senate. Kevin McCarthy was a Republican congressman from California, and then he was the Speaker of the House for 6 months, 8 months before being boosted from that role by Matt Gaetz, right? Matt Gaetz was the one who introduced the motion to vacate to remove Kevin McCarthy. He handed McCarthy an ignominious historical defeat by getting him kicked out of his job. He's like the third shortest serving, Republican Speaker of the House, period, and the first in history to be removed by a motion to vacate by a member of his own party. And then in December, a few months later, Kevin McCarthy resigned from the Senate. He's like, screw this, I'm out. But that hatred between Gaetz and McCarthy is enduring. You might be wondering why. Why is that? Well, this is what Kevin McCarthy had to say just a couple of months ago after he left Congress in an interview, and you get more of the details.
So was it this, you made a lot of concessions in the negotiations.
No, I didn't.
Okay, is that
Let's get to the bottom of that.
Right?
That is such a misnomer in life. Let me give you the truth about that now. And I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old. An ethics complaint that started before I ever became Speaker, and that's illegal, and I'm not going to get in the middle. Did he do it or not? I don't know. But ethics is looking at it. There's other people in jail because of it.
And he goes on like that. Okay. So he says Matt Gaetz is under ethics, an ethics review, an ethics investigation for potentially having sex with a minor, a 17-year-old, which some of this had been reported about, but, you know, it's almost like an open secret in certain respects. But McCarthy's just airing out the dirty laundry. He was asked about it a short time later on CNN, and this is what McCarthy had to say.
But you want Gaetz to lose. Clearly, you're supporting his primary opponent. Why do you want him out? Just because, is it simply because he led the charge to push you out?
No, I just don't think Gaetz is a conservative. I mean, and if you think about it, if there's anybody who should go to trial, I mean, Gaetz is one who should be convicted in a trial.
Why? Why do you say that?
Well, we all know the challenge here. You can't sleep with underage women and think you can get away with it. I mean,
He denies that.
well, the women don't, and so there's people in jail.
It's a banger line right there. That's a good roast from Kevin McCarthy. And so let's go into more detail about the context. Okay, so this is from a report back in June. Ethics Committee investigating Representative Matt Gaetz over alleged drug use and sexual misconduct. The House panel is continuing its review of Gaetz's conduct, including possible obstruction. The Florida Republican has denied any wrongdoing. The House Ethics Committee said Tuesday is continuing to review sexual allegations against Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, including that he engaged in sexual misconduct and illegal drug use. The bipartisan panel, which investigates ethics complaints, said in a lengthy statement that it's also examining whether Gaetz, quote, accepted improper gifts, dispensed special privileges and favors to individuals with whom he had a personal relationship, and sought to obstruct government investigations of his conduct, end quote. The committee said it will take no further action regarding allegations that he, quote, shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use, and or accepted a bribe or improper gratuity, end quote. Gaetz, a top Trump ally on Capitol Hill, has denied all allegations of wrongdoing. In a post on X Monday night, Gaetz pointed out that past ethics investigations into him have resulted in, quote, exonerations. Gaetz, who led the successful effort last fall to overthrow Kevin McCarthy, blamed him and his allies who have sought retribution. Quote, this is Soviet. Kevin McCarthy showed them the man, and they are now trying to find the crime. I work for Northwest Floridians who won't be swayed by this nonsense, and McCarthy and his goons know it. Even months after his ouster, McCarthy has repeatedly accused Gaetz of going after him to stop the ethics investigation. So, yeah, it's a lot of drama that we're seeing from the Republican National Convention. And again, McCarthy's not even in Congress anymore. Gaetz is, and they clearly hate each other. But the reason, or one of the reasons rather, that this is so interesting is because, you know, you contrast this with what's going on in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, historically speaking, has not lent itself well to a unified, cohesive whole. I mean, the expression is, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. And for much of U.S. political history, certainly in the modern era, that has been true. The circular firing squad, as President Obama referred to it. And then for much of the Trump era, it's actually been flipped because he's so divisive, so corrosive, so stupid, and so just congenitally unable to like unite people, that Democrats have actually been pretty coherent, especially during the Biden era. President Biden, you know, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi, give her credit, Chuck Schumer as well. You know, it's a group effort, but they have built such an incredible coalition, which goes as far right as Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And I know that's hard to believe because there have been high profile defections by Sinema and by Manchin. But the fact of the matter is, on like 70 to 85, 90% of the legislation proffered by Democrats, Sinema and Manchin, as annoying as they can be, have supported the president's agenda. right? And neither of them will be in Congress or be in the Senate next term because neither of them are seeking re-election. But that coalition that they built, the Democrats built, include people like Sinema and Manchin, who, as annoying as they can be, again, fell in line for the most part, and then went as far left as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Ilhan Omar and AOC and Rashida Tlaib. It's an incredible achievement. But right now, as the election draws nearer, there are serious fractures and schisms within the GOP, not just about genuine disagreements about how the State Department under President Biden is managing the crisis in Gaza, but also about the president and whether or not he should be the nominee. But those are genuine, good faith, sincere disagreements. Meanwhile, look at the Republicans. This is the least productive iteration of Congress in recorded history. They are so fractured. And even this exchange right here is over something as torrid and sordid as this between Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy. I mean, it's just so interesting to me that you couldn't get a starker contrast between the two parties, that even at their most dysfunctional, the Democrats are talking about policy. And what you see between Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy is a genuine grudge match between two awful people. Let me know what you think in the comments.